Now we are. Good afternoon, Brother Marong.
Good afternoon, Paramos.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good,
Going
man.
another Sunday. The last Sunday before the Tuesday elections.
Yep.
Oh, I'm still nervous as hell. Hopeful, but nervous.
Yes, we can be hopeful. We can be nervous, man. That's okay. But I tell you what, that Negro ain't gonna pass 48%, maybe less. Well, I'm projecting 47, 48, 51 Kamala.
Yeah?
Yep.
Nako yal na yalla nangu sa
No, I
lamiñ.
think Yala didn't at more, man. Definitely. The guy doesn't offer nothing, man. The dark instincts and hate, man. This country don't want that.
Yeah,
So
no doubt. That's what he's spewing out there. I'm not sure what his angle is. Hopefully I don't know, man.
But did you see him yesterday when his Mac got stuck in Wisconsin?
I know.
The stuff that the guy is going off. I'm telling you right now, the guy is not on himself.
He just
So
went crazy.
yep.
I just saw excerpt of it this morning. I'm like, okay, is that how you want to close out an election? Really? You know, it's just, I don't know. And I saw this interesting. I think Sheriff Kejera is here already. Brother Sheriff,
Hello,
good afternoon.
hello.
How you doing?
I'm okay, Alhamdulillah.
That's
How
great.
is everyone doing there?
Everyone is fine. I'm fine, and my brother, my colleague here, Marong, I'm sure he's doing
Hi,
great.
Marong.
Mr. Kejera, how are you?
Marong, I'm fine.
Alhamdulillah. Kejera, are you a Sarahule man or what's going on?
Yeah, Nkeni school in Kenya, Nkeni Sarafule.
Kenny son in Kenya. Okay, no problem. I'm a
Yeah,
Baribunga.
I own you then. Huh? Huh? Musaki sumodom la, Sariang sumodom.
Osa domlare.
Wow. Suma jabar tami bali bunkala Marong la Santa.
Oh, Marong
Oh,
na Santa. Oh, okay.
So I bought one bali bunka woman. Huh?
yeah, okay. No problem.
Okay.
I also bought one Saraule woman, so she's here.
Oh, you got.
Okay. That's nice.
Yes.
Anyway, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So
Thank you.
mas gudangla dal.
Well, mas bulang la. Di kan mas bulang la.
Oh,
That's good.
definitely, Sharif.
Very good.
So how are things in Gambia?
Pardon?
How are things in Gambia?
Gambia.
Yes, the weather,
Well, the weather is very hot, and now it's on and off. The jumping light is going on and off.
right.
So that's a problem in this country. And then, but Alhamdulillah,
Yeah, you guys are
Alhamdulillah.
surviving.
Yeah.
That is great. That is great. Yeah. So Sariang, we are going to be talking to Mr. Kejera. And was it about a couple of weeks ago? I got this information talking about Accountability Project Gambia. It's a new initiative that he's launching, and he's going to tell us all about it. Maybe it has already been launched. It's a question of, giving us the. But before that, also, he's the former chairman of the Victim Center. So I don't think we can have any conversation without talking about the Victim Center. How did it come about? Where are things as far as the center is concerned? What were the goals? Have they begin to achieve them? I'm sure he's the right one to give us the pulse as far as the Victim Center is concerned. So I think, Sirif, if you don't mind, maybe that's where we would start this conversation, right?
Well, thank you, and good evening to you all and to our ardent listeners. The Victim Center was established in April 2017, immediately after the departure of Yahya Jammeh. Um, some of our members, they're prominent among the diaspora, like Saul Menga, Hussein Menga, Amadou Skatel Jane, and Ule Sise, Ramsiet Diab, and many others, This was as a result of what Gambia have undergone through the autocratic regime of Yahya Jammeh. A lot of people were victimized. There was a deep-rooted, governance challenges as a direct result of the Jammeh authoritarian regime that necessitated the urge for people in the Gambia and some of our diaspora colleagues to come together and form the Victim Center. When it was launched, we launched an outreach campaign across the country to register victims, to encourage them to come forward and register and narrate their stories, to take their statements, and so that they can, take part in the TRRC process. It was quite a successful campaign. The Victim Center registered almost about 1,600 victims across the country from various categories of various thematic, areas that include arbitrary arrest and torture, enforced disappearances, the victims that suffered, sexual violations and many others, So many of those victims also participated in the TRRC process. I think the TRRC registered about more than 2,000 victims. But when they go through their files and do their investigations, about 1,009 out of those 2,000 were qualified as victims, and those were, awarded compensation under the reparation program. So the Victim Center did so well. About more than 1,000 cases. We took up more than 1,000 cases and provided medical support to them across the country. We provided psychosocial support. We provided with livelihood support as well, and then help them, to lodge their cases with the TRRC and also to participate in the truth-seeking process as well. So so far the Victim Center has done quite well. We had a constructive engagement with the Ministry of Justice. We had an existing MOU with the National Human Rights Commission that set the rules of our engagement and to collaborate on how to monitor the TRRC, the TRRC reports recommendations, the implementation of the TRRC recommendations. And also, we continue to engage with other stakeholders like the UN system, UN agencies, the EU, the different, the embassies that we have in the country, to provide a support cell, to the victims community, to ensure that, the government hold up to its obligation to fully implement the TRRC report and recommendations.
Yeah, Kejera, without a doubt, we all of us were here going back to 2016. If there is one particular issue that Gambians lined up and voted against Jammeh, has a lot to do with all of us. We were victims of Jammeh. Now, the government that came in on the back of Gambians were victimized. We voted the dictator and sent him packing. What was the role of the government in terms of receptive to this whole concept of the Victim Center? How helpful were they? And what is their role today, you being in the Gambia?
Well, initially, the government has been quite supportive to the Victim Center. We had quite a a very, very collaborative engagement with the Ministry of Justice. And they still continue to do, but unfortunately, I think now what the government is doing with the victims is playing the game of ping pong. You can see the reparations, that haven't been, completely, implemented according to the promise made by the Ministry of Justice. It is 3 years now, since the TRRC wrap up.
Right.
Well, the TRRC initially, paid about 35 million dollars as a compensation to the victims. If you're looking at the entire package of the reparations that was awarded to the entire victim, that was about $239 million.
Wow.
$239 million. Out of $239 million, the government was only able to pay about $38 million as compensation to victims. So you still have about $200 million that is yet to be paid to the victims. Every year, the government will make allocations in their budget, but we don't see actions. You see all empty promises and all that, coming from the government. Recently, they have enacted the Reparation Act at the National Assembly. They have embarked on the process of recruiting commissioners that are going to be working in that reparation commission. But I think selecting 7 commissioners to the reparation commission, I think is waste of resources. I don't see the logic behind it. Why would you employ so many people just to pay out reparations, and something that is not even yet started? Last year, 2023, in May or June, the government, launched, a roundtable conference, a donor roundtable conference, with the various donors across the world, to raise, the funds for the prosecution of Yahya Jammeh and his conspirators. That was to the tune of $150 million. $150 million just to prosecute Yahya Jammeh, and awarding victims about $4 million as compensation. I think that is a slap, in the face of the victims. It doesn't make sense using $150 million to prosecute Yahya Jammeh and awarding $4 million as compensation to the victims. I think that is quite ridiculous. Basically, it is a scheme for personal enrichment of those that are going to be in that process, the lawyers, the many judges, the personnel of the Ministry of Justice, organizing endless workshops, travel per diems, attending meetings and all that. All that money resources is going to be used, it's going to be a stream. So I think what makes sense, awarding victims $100 million and then prosecuting Jammeh the rest, I think that would have made sense to the victims actually. So still now we haven't had anything about the reparations commissions or what the government intends to do. But I think basically the victims have been played with a game of ping pong.
Thank you very much, Brother Maron.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kejera. Mr. Kejera, sometimes we like to have our guests introduce themselves to our viewers. So I think we put the cart before the horse. But who is Mr. Kejera? If you could give us a little intro of yourself.
Well, Sheriff Kejera is a private citizen. I am an activist. I'm also a businessman. I have most of my family members were victimized during the Jammeh era. My great uncle was the former president, Sadaura Jawara. We all know what the Jammeh administration did to Jawara and his family. Most of their assets were seized. People were detained unlawfully. Personally, my dad was called to the commission. The Algali Commission. He has nothing to do with the government. He's a private businessman, but because of his relation with the former president, Jammeh, track him to that, to that commission. Without no basis, or whatsoever. Being the case, and also many friends, families, were victimized by the Gambia administration. Myself, I intended to stand for the mayor elections in 2022, or 2002, sorry. When I was picked up, and then detained briefly for a couple of hours during the nomination day itself, and then later to be released to go and do my nomination with only 15 minutes left for the nomination. I think those are all, a process of being victimized. So basically, that's the little story I have to summarize it that way. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kejera. Mr. Kejera, I was listening to you, and you highlighted the successes and as well as the challenges as well. But in particular, you spoke about how the Victim Center was able to collaborate with the Minister of Justice. And obviously, we knew there was a transition. I mean, the Minister of Justice that was there before, and there was a changeover, and there was another justice. So if you had to say, I mean, what are the successes for under Justice Tambido, Minister Tambido, and as well as Dauda Jallo currently, who is filling that position?
Well, in all fairness, I think the Ministry of Justice did well to enhance the smooth and a very good collaboration between the Ministry of Justice itself and the Victim Center. We have participated in all forums. We participated in the National Stakeholders Conference. We also participated in the nationwide, the campaign to launch the TRRC. I personally, I was a member of the Transitional Justice Technical Committee at the Ministry of Justice. That helped to, to establish the TRRC. I participated also in the study tours to South Africa with the Minister of Justice himself. To help, the establishment of the TRRC. And also we had a very constructive engagement with the Minister of Justice. We participated in all, their programs, we also, we did not receive any direct, funding from the Minister of Justice. As we continually, ask the ministry if at all the government can give some kind of subvention to the Victim Center to help, taking care of our, activities and also the other costs that are involved in maintaining the center. But to this date, we receive no funding from the government. And but one of the challenges that we have with the Ministry of Justice is the lack of communication. Most of the time, you will hear information on the newspapers, at the last minute, at the 11th hour, without, getting a proper, communication directly from the Ministry of Justice. But I think what they did now was they literally killed the Victim Center by, initiating the formation of a victims-led, associate alliance, whatever they call it, AVLO, I don't know. That killed the Victim Center because most of the membership of that alliance are part of the Victim Center, and most of them are even board members. Some are even working at the Victim Center. So I don't see the logic why forming an alliance of victims-led association when you have the main umbrella body, that is the Victim Center, that is the sole, the entity that registered victims, that have the database of victims. I don't see any reason why they could have done that when you have the 75% of the membership of that association are all board members of the Victim Center. So I don't see the logic in it, because what I understand is the government was getting too much pressure from the Victim Center. So, in trying to kill that, they came up with a strategy to silence the Victim Center by coming up with an initiative of setting up an alliance that will deal directly with the Victim Center. So now, as of now, the Ministry of Justice have no direct link or direct communication with the Victim Center. All their communication is directed towards, the the alliance of victims-led associations. So basically, that is what they did.
All right. Thank you. Musa, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Kejera, you talked about, basically the government killing the victim center by creating, you call it the victim alliance. But going back to when you were the chairperson, clearly there
Sorry,
were people
Musa, the line is not very clear.
Oh, really? Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you properly. It's not very clear.
It's not
It's
very
the
clear.
Atlantic internet.
Can you hear me now?
Hello, yeah.
Can you hear me? Let
Yeah.
me try this.
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Better?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. When you were the chairperson of the victim center, there were names that you talked about, the Son Bangers, the Usainu Bangers, the Scattered Johnnies. It didn't take long, the Ramzia Diabs, that those people were no longer with the center. There was a lot of joking and elbow and the politicking. Do you also take responsibility that the center itself contributed to its own effectiveness by the joking that I'm talking about, and some of these people basically quitting the center itself? What do you think what led to that? What was the problem?
I can't hear you properly.
Okay, my question is, you mentioned the Usainu Mengas, the Sol Mengas, Ramzia Diabs, Amadou Skatajane. These were all board members at the beginning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they ended up leaving the center, quitting. What was behind their leaving the center?
No, actually, there was no problem. Actually, we have a mandate of 2 term. When our mandate finished, so we have to step down and allow others to step in. So basically, there was no problem. Initially, Amadou Skatrel provided, us a room at his office that the victim center started their operations at Amadou Skatrel's office before we have our own place to move on to. And then Sol Menga also, thought he has done enough.
Right.
After the end of his term, he decided, to step aside and allow others to come in. So Ramsia Diab also, or they all did their part. But because there is a mandate of two term, so most of us step aside to allow for new people to take over the mantle of leadership at the victim center. Yeah, but I think you still have quite a handful of people who are there that are still committed to the progress and development of the center. It's because of there are challenges of lack of funding. Most of these donors, have left because of, you can attribute some of it to donor fatigue, and then the transitional justice is also facing out to another level. To the post-TRRC prosecutions and the likes. But there is no the problem at all.
Also, just recently, Dear Jao was brought in to be the chairperson of the board. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dear Jao was brought in and to take over being the chairman of the board. But I also understand that recently he walked away from it. What is that all about? Do you know anything about it? What are the details? What led to him walking away from being the chairperson?
Well, according to what I've read from the newspapers, he was his position was merely reduced to like signing checks. He has not been given any active role to effectively, play his role at the victim center. This is as a result of what I have just said. When this Avlo thing was brought in, the the victim center was killed. It was dormant.
Right.
And he was basically sidelined. Imagine when the president invited the victims to State House. D.A.
Right.
Jawa was not informed as the board chairman. He was not informed, and many of the board members were not informed. So, what led to that, I don't understand. Victim Center being the umbrella body of the victims associations. I don't see any reason why Dr. D.A. Janes should be sidelined. But I think it would have been appropriate for D.A. Jao himself to shed light on the reason for his departure. So I cannot, say much about that. Actually, it's just basically it's what I read on the papers about his departure from the victim center.
Okay, you talked about DA being sidelined, and I'm beginning to question, because I'm thinking, being the chairman of the board, he would be one of the most influential, powerful, if I could say, movers and shakers at the center. Who are the people that really have the power? Who are the people that are responsible for this sidelining that you're talking about?
Well, for that, I don't really understand who did that, but I know, according to him, he has been sidelined.
By who?
According to DA himself, his position has been merely reduced to, the signing checks and all that. He does not participate in anything because they don't involve him. Initially, the victim center chairman was very powerful, under my leadership.
Yes.
All the communications directed to the chairman. Any communication will be copied to the chairman. But when DA came in, imagine, I think before DA, it was, Emmanuel Juve. That was the chairperson. And within 6 weeks or so, 2 months, he resigned as a result of conflict of interest, because he is also the chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission. So people were querying that he cannot be chairman of the National Human Rights Commission and also hold the chairmanship of the Victim Center. So that was the reason that he resigned and DA came in. But according to what I have read on the paper, these were the stories I had, the DA lamenting about his departure. But I think it will be most appropriate, if DA himself can respond to those questions,
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kejera. Mr. Kejera, I listened to you, and it looks like, putting an alternate sort of a group or committee while the victim center is still in force kind of undercut, the mandate or key goals that the organization wants to accomplish. Now, I have to go back this because I think the whole thing goes back to the Minister of Justice and the government working side by side and other organizations, especially the donor. But what do you really think? Why such an alternate was formed due to what? Was it just due to, you mentioned pressure, but what else was the driving force behind forming another committee and taking those members from Victim Center, put them in there, basically running parallel? Then ultimately the Victim Center doesn't have, they died, because lack of engagement or sort of. So, but what do you think? What drives those? What is the main reason behind this?
Well, immediately before I left the victim center, there was this guy, Kim Beng Ta. I think he's the deputy director of civil litigation at the Ministry of Justice. I received a communication from the national coordinator of the victim center that the Ministry of Justice was on the verge of, bringing different victims associations together under one umbrella association, as it is called now, the Association of Victims Alliance, or the Alliance of Victims-led, organizations. So when I received that information, I took it upon myself to reach out to the Solicitor General. I went to see him at his office and inform him about the new development indictment that we have just received. But what the Solicitor General told me, he was not aware of it. As the man directly involved, that should be coordinating those affairs. He was not aware of it, so he asked me to sit, and then he immediately called a meeting between myself, Kim Bengta, Patunjai, and the Solicitor General himself. But what Kim Bengta told us that was that it was the idea of the victims themselves, some of the victim association themselves that came up with the idea to form an association. But I told him, why forming an association when you have most of the membership of those associations are part of the victim center? Some of them are even board members of the victim center. It doesn't make sense. And none of those associations you call, they have not registered even a single victims. It is only the victim center that all the victims were registered. We documented their cases. They have been receiving support from us. So basically, the other associations were, they're managing other thematic areas, doing their individual work. You can see some of them are even like family associations, managing their own victims things, But when the Solicitor General actually, what he told us was that he should have been informed. And any such major decision like that, I think it should have been brought to his attention before any such decision is made. But when I left the victim center, that was the time I had they came up together, to form that victims-led association. And when they formed that, immediately that was the the demise of the victim center, and it is definitely, they're not active. You don't hear about them. There is no direct communication between the government and the victim center. All the communication are channeled through the Alliance of Victims-Led Association. So which makes it very difficult for victim center, to operate. And most of the donors have also, fled, and most of the activities were shut down, the staffs were reduced, basically, I think the victim center is on the verge of, the collapse or closure.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kejera. Mr. Kejera, I have to go back and ask these questions because I know there was during the TRRC and post, when TRRC submit their report, these are two ministers. And I wanted to know how the lay of the lines of communication between two leadership styles, right? You have the Tambidu who was involved at the very onset and pass it along to Mr. Dauda Jallo, who is the current minister. But what is the mode of engagement like? Was the victim center be able to have meetings with the minister, or is just the Solicitor General, both under the leadership of Tambidu and under the leadership of Dauda Jallo? How does this look like? And also, are the victims involved in those type of communication channels, and especially things that impacts them?
Well, in all fairness, I must say both leadership have been giving equal attention to the victim center. We have a very, very, engaging, the consultative and, collaborative engagement with both ministers at all levels. We see both Dauda and Mr. Tambidu anytime we, they ask, to have an audience with them. So, they have an open door policy with the victim center. Yeah, to be quite honest, I think in all fairness, I think they have, their approach towards the victim center was very cordial. It was very engaging, and it was quite collaborative, to be quite honest. Yeah. So we see them anytime we feel like seeing both ministers at any time, at any level. Yeah.
Okay. So how about the victims themselves, the families? Are they into, the whole dreams of the communication models and all that? How are they involved into the whole food chain?
Well, the victims normally, we have we have an outreach, the engagement with them across the country. Any information, the victim center will reach out to them. We have focal points across the country, that, I mean, mobilized victims. If the Ministry of Justice would want to see them, or the TRRC, or even the other, stakeholders, if they are willing to see them, they have a direct contact with our focal points across the country. They mobilize victims, to have, that kind of engagement with both the Ministry of Justice, the Victim Center, and even other victims-led associations. So Victim Center has already laid that foundation, to make communication and accessibility to victims quite very easy. Anytime that is quite available. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Father Mose, go ahead.
So, Mr. Kejera, I think we need to be fair to you because basically you were invited to talk about this new effort that you have already launched, I believe, Accountability Project Gambia. And that's where my questions moving forward will focus on. What is this project all about, Mr. Kejera?
Accountability Project was incorporated and registered with the Ministry of Justice in January 2023. The Accountability Project was established to support the transitional justice process and the post-TRRC accountability mechanisms, and also to provide the platform, to create awareness, about the post-TRRC prosecutions, the the hybrid court that is going to be set up by the government, and also to strengthen individuals about the rule of law, the legal frameworks that the government is working on. To work on the basis, the legal basis of about how to establish an international crimes jurisdiction within our court system. Basically is to create awareness and also to take up some certain responsibility in holding government of the Gambia accountable. To certain acts that are not consistent with our domestic laws, and also to make sure that the victims' participation in the post-TRRC prosecution is the foremost, most important thing that is going to be part of the process. Provide, the attorneys for the victims to participate directly in the post-TRRC process. So basically, that is the reason why we came up with some of the lawyers, and even some of the prominent lawyers are willing also, to give support to the Accountability Project Gambia. So basically, that is the reason why we established, the organization.
How is it? The organization itself. How is it structured? Do you have like a board, chairperson, and how is it structured? And who are the people behind this project?
Yeah, we have an executive committee that is more like the board.
Mm-hmm.
We have the secretary, the president. We have the legal team. And then we have basically it is in a small unit at the moment. We are yet to expand on the other areas like the operations, to operationalize some of our activities. But basically, we had an executive committee that is more like a board. Yeah.
Gambia or anywhere else for that matter, anytime you create an entity, the question is, how is this entity going to be funded? Are you guys going to be relying on subvention from the government, or are you going to be out there looking for funds from organizations? How do you expect to fund this entity?
Basically, like how we did with the Victim Center. When we initially launched the Victim Center, we do not receive any direct support from the government or outside, like the donor community. But basically, the Victim Center was initially was locally funded by Gambians themselves. We have generous, donors from the diaspora and the Gambia itself. that started funding some of our operations. The same way that we intend to do with the accountability project. We want the ownership. The ownership. By Gambians themselves. To participate in the process, to contribute towards some of our activities that are going to be implemented, especially the outreach activities. That is to raise awareness and sensitize the public about customary international laws, that the government is working on the legislations, on the legal framework, especially with the special, the prosecutors bill, of special prosecutors office bill, and the special accountability mechanism bill. Some of these things, we need to, sensitize the public about the role of the prosecutor and the role of the civil society and the public ownership of the process as well. So in that regard, we need, the ownership by Gambians themselves to come forward and donate generously towards the activities of some of the activities that we are going to be implementing.
Yeah. Go ahead, Saria.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kejera. Mr. Kejera, I just want to piggyback on what Musa asked. So, in terms of structure and the day-to-day operation of the new entity that you guys are to form, how is it going to be different based on lessons learned from the victim center? Because it seems like there are challenges, obviously, and what are some of the lessons learned you would apply in this that would be different from the victim center?
Basically, I think more involvement of intellectuals like lawyers, because this is more of it is quite a different dynamics or different approach that we are going to use for that matter. Because with the victim center, you are dealing directly with the victim center. There was ownership of the victims directly. Victims were registered. And for this time around, it is different. Basically, the organization will be providing support direct to victims, and not just victims. It is not just limited to the post-TRRC prosecutions. It is also going to look into other abuses by the state actors, like the financial misappropriation, and bad governance, like holding the government to account on poor human rights records. Some of these cases can be challenged at our domestic courts. Because the government cannot always be abusing its powers. Like some of these things need to be implemented. There are cases, as you may notice, some of these cases were taken to court. People won their cases for the government to implement and award, the compensation to the victims. Government is still refusing to do that. There are a series of cases, that we have in this country that the government is not holding up to its responsibility, to fully implement, the decision of the courts. So we need to challenge all these matters to before a competent court of jurisdiction. We have one case also we understand is the Jana Commission. The report. The government does not fully implement the Jana Commission report. It has abused its powers by disposing of Jana's assets unlawfully. And then where are the funds? The government cannot fully account for the funds. Who are the buyers of Jana's properties? People need to know. The public need to know about all these things. And the pardoning of some of the alleged the financial criminals like Mumuru Sabali and the others. They have been pardoned unlawfully. All these things need to be challenged before a competent court of jurisdiction. For the courts to give us that interpretation as to what legal basis the government was relying upon to act in the manner that is quite unjudicious, that is quite inappropriate, and that is quite unlawful as far as the constitution and laws of the Gambia is concerned. So these things need to be taken before a competent court of jurisdiction, so that the Gambians can learn lessons from, and a precedent also can be set. So, and I think those kind of cases will be enriching to our jurisprudence, and also it will also set precedents that there will be no impunity whatsoever. In holding government to account for certain acts.
All right, Mr. Kejera, thank you very much. And I was going to ask you about whether it's just limited to the TRRC, but you kind of went over with the Janet Commission because I was interested in that one as well. So, thank you for answering that one. But Mr. Kejera, one thing that our country is struggling with, and I like the key phrase accountability, is the widespread corruption and the mega resources that we have. Folks cannot put that into greater use for the benefit of everyone. And I think in the beginning you highlighted that very well, whereby funds were raised. A very minuscule was given to the victims, and the rest was more of expenditure and expenditure and expenditure. But how do you your organization, in terms of accountability, how do you guys fit into that equation, whereby things that you really felt potentially that lack of accountability, we'll see there's some of money missing at the Ports Authority, the government could not take it upon itself, things die down. What do you think this entity will do in terms of, if there is a national audit report saying that this sum of money has been missing and lack of government willingness to take on it, how would this organization fit in and take that challenge heads on and take it to the necessary courts to fight it?
Mr. Kejera.
Well, like I mentioned about the Journey Commission, I think corruption is quite and
yeah, Mr. Kejera, the line is very poor. Or is it me?
No, it's poor. It's staggering. It's.
You're not coming out clearly, Mr. Kejera. Do you wanna go out and come back again, Mr. Kejera? People are not hearing you.
Yeah.
Do you wanna come out and try it again? Yeah, the line was just horrible. I thought it was me, the usual. So, yeah, Sariang, we wait for. I guess we wait for him to come back, and we will conclude.
Quite interesting, though. Quite interesting,
oh,
and
very interesting.
Oh yeah, and I think I would like to see, especially those that are pardoned and those who have been victimized. How do you strike a fair balance in that? And quite interesting. Who knows?
It is without a doubt.
Whether constitutionally the president has the power to pardon someone who's been liable by a commission of inquiry that was set up by Congress, right. by the National Assembly. Definitely, I'm very, very interested to hear what the court's take is on that one, that he can unilaterally pardon someone.
And he seems to, I have to believe that he has a legal basis for making some of these utterances. But Mr. Kejera.
Hello? Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Can you get me now?
Mm-hmm. Oh, we can hear you loud and clear. Definitely.
Okay, that's good. All right. Okay, like I said before, corruption is quite endemic. Within the borough administration. Like we have said before, that there is always life after presidency. What before Jammeh could also, be the same case with Adam Barrow. And I think the Barrow regime is even more corrupt than Yahya Jammeh. And I can assure you that with the change of government, Adam Barrow must face a financial commission because he is following the footsteps of Jammeh. We have seen what Barrow is doing at Mankamankunda and across the country. He's buying properties like the way Jammeh was doing. He has started talking like the way Jammeh is behaving, because of, he has surrounded himself with the Yahya Jammeh enablers, like the likes of Sidi Njai and many others, the Momodu Sabalis and many others. So he's actually, taking his, lessons from the Jammeh playbook. He's behaving exactly like Yahya Jammeh. And Barrow must face, an accountability commission at the end of his mandate. People must hold him to account for the corrupt practices that he himself is engaging upon. We have heard he is building the land of the Chief Justice. He took ownership of that land and many others across the country. I think there should be leadership by example. If you set up a commission to investigate if your predecessor, I think you should always set an example, to play by the book. There are already, the general orders is there and the financial instruction of the government. But the government is not doing that. People are spending money like anyhow they want. We have seen what happened to the Ports Authority. Recently, we have heard what happened to the IEC, and they have been rewarded by taking off, the IEC from the Gambia public procurement authorities. They have been given a free hand to do their procurement, anyhow they want. That was a law that was passed during this week. So how can you condone certain acts? This is what we say that Gambia lack leadership. We lack responsible leadership. With institutions like ours, like Accountability Project. These are the kind of issues. We are going to look into. To explore the legal avenues and see how to challenge government before competent courts of jurisdiction. I think the Gambia did it before when the National Assembly wanted to take a loan to award themselves loans. This was challenged by Gambia participate at the courts and they won. So there are remedies that people can use. So these are the kind of things that the organization like the civil society need to look into, not just us, but I think that there should be a concerted effort across the board from the civil society to look into the corrupt malpractices of the government and then try to challenge them. We cannot always challenge the government by organizing protests, by organizing demonstration and writing lengthy essays. That will not solve our problem. It is about time to take actions, pragmatic actions, constructive ones for that matter, to challenge government before a competent court of jurisdiction, to make sure that we hold them to account, and I think basically that is the way forward.
Thank you, Mr. Kejera. Paramos.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kejera. There was one thing that you mentioned, and that is this accountability project Gambia was launched back in 2023. Is that right? Registered 2023.
Yeah, 2023 last year.
Last year. And now we're almost at the end of 2024. And without a doubt, for this thing to work, you need a buy-in from other civil society organizations and the Gambian people as well. Now, what do you think that the organization needs to do? For instance, you talked about, the president pardoning the Momodu Sabalis of this world, the Njogu Bas. One would say that maybe if you were able to go to court and launch an effort like that, Gambians will begin to take your organization very seriously. What do you think you need to do to kind of convince Gambians that you guys are really for real and not just, because you mentioned, responding to Sarian, that it cannot be just about protests and lengthy essays. We have to do something pragmatic. Apart from the legal avenues, what are those other options available in your arsenal, for instance?
We have started consultation with other, entities or other legal, practitioners that quite influential in the country. I don't just want to, give their names, but we have started that consultation to see how they can support the process, and they are very keen and willing to support that initiative. To launch an inquiry or an investigation into that matter. We have started that consultation. That it is an ongoing one. We have seen also, the competent, individuals that are privy to certain information. So we are doing our groundwork. That we will network with other partners as well. We cannot do it alone. So we will partner with others to see how best, that we can present a very credible, case for that matter before a competent court of jurisdiction. And I think that these are very key and important, to achieve our objective and our goal to hold the government to account for, many other issues, not just limited to the Janneh Commission report, but many other issues as well. So basically, what we need is concerted efforts across the board, networking between other partners as well, and including the diaspora as well, for support, both funding, morally and intellectually. To see how best we can get advice from, the intellectuals across the board. I think that will enhance, the implementation of that project effectively.
I know that there's one statement that you make is gonna be out there tomorrow morning on newspapers, and maybe I wanna go back to it, and that is you saying that actually the Barrow government, this current government, is actually much more corrupt than the Jammeh government. We're talking about the Jammeh government that used to send bags to the central bank to load it with money. The Jammeh government that is known for absolute corruption. Yes, there is corruption within the current government, and Adam Barrow himself, like you indicated. But can you go back? Was this just a hyperbolic statement, or are you really saying that actually Barrow and his government is much more corrupt than Jammeh, Mr. Kejera?
What I'm saying literally is Barrow and his government is more corrupt than the Jammeh administration. Jammeh administration, you have one individual giving orders and acting alone, taking money as he wished. But during Jammeh's time, people were afraid to behave in such manner like people are behaving now during the Barrow administration. There is lack of leadership. Basically, all the institutions are collapsing. Look at NAWEC. NAWEC is collapsed. You go to the Kotus power station, there is no functioning generator at the Kotu power station. All our energy is coming from, the car power and Senelec. What if Senegal today, we have a problem with Senegal, and they decided not to, work with Gambia by supplying us energy? What is going to happen? That is going to be quite disastrous. What happens to the millions of dollars given to NAWEC by the World Bank? What have they done with that money? Today there is, and even the OIC's summit, $20 million was given to, the NAWEC to work on the infrastructure of the, both water and electricity, but nothing has been done. Even the OIC road project, it has not been done properly. According to the design and plan of the road, well, the government deviated from the actual plan. We have seen the road become more narrower. Most of the, infrastructure that was to come along with the road did not actually materialize. It does not come with the road. You don't have the public footpath, the bicycle lanes, and the secondary road, and the other projects also haven't been, implemented. So the Barrow administration is even more corrupt. 3 years down the line from Barrow's, when Barrow came to power, Barrow was able to construct a multi-million-dollar mansion at Mankamangkunda. Where does that money come from? Those needs to be accounted for. So he needs to come and explain to us where he got all that money from, to construct Mankamangkunda and many other projects, and the likes of the $35 million, that was alleged, linked to the FAB Foundation. So they need to come and tell us. So I'm not just saying that, that they took our money, but these are allegations that, need to be clear. If you build a multi-million-dollar house, mansion, and your salary is not up to that, people have a right to question. So Barrow will face accountability, the commission, to explain to Gambians how Gambia's resources was spent, how he was able to acquire such wealth. That he need to come and tell us that.
Barrow needs to come and explain where he gets his wealth from, according to Mr. Kejera. Mr. Kejera, Sariang, if you have any other question, or what would you leave us as far as the Accountability Project Gambia? And what else? When are we going to see you going to the courts and launching for either a case about the pardons or the very corruption that you are talking about against the Barrow government, Mr. Kejera?
Musa, I was just gonna add just a comment. I think the Sarahule man got his mojo, and he's very fired up to get this whole thing started. So
it looks like
that is very, very appreciative of you. But Mr. Kejera, one thing though we always leave out, and I know you mentioned this in your conversation about outreaching. I think we cannot underestimate channeling our outreaching efforts into our local languages, because things that you just mentioned, if you talk to someone in rural Gambia and say, someone who's been held accountable by the commission, but you kind of explain that in Sarahule, in Mandinka, in Fula, in Jola, and say, this is a guy who, over the amount of years, he went into central bank and signed off on this sum of money, which no one can account of, which can come down and build your hospitals and roads and all that stuff. But he went in and pardoned that guy. But there are some people he wants to hold them accountable. Where do you think there is fairness? But all I'm just saying is, if we're going to do outreach, let's also ingrain into our local languages, partner with civil society organization, make sure talk to the folks to have a good support, because I think you are on a very good trajectory, and wish you all the best. So that's all I wanted to add to what you have already mentioned.
In the local language, you've been.
Say it again.
You want me to come in the local language?
No. I'm saying in the field, when you guys get this whole project rolling and your outreach effort and to get a good support from Carton to Koina, I think we cannot underestimate having that messaging or your outreach effort, ingraining our local languages to communicate to folks about what your programs and what you intend to accomplish, moving forward. Because, the political environment is very, very polarized. They can come in and try to message things that they are going after you. How do you counter that message that this is not about going after a particular individual? This is going up, creating fairness. That way, you in rural Gambia, whether you are in Futa Toro or somewhere else, your lack of basic necessities, those funds that were embezzled can be beneficial to you on a day-to-day basis. So there's a messaging aspect to it in our local language, and I think that's what I'm trying to drive, that let's not forget that to make sure that everyone is on board with that. Yes.
Well, basically, that's how our outreach activities were normally conducted. We use the many local languages that we can reach out to the grassroots, about our messaging and how to get them, understand what is actually happening on the ground. So basically, we use the local languages. Even, the Victim Center did a very good job by, translating, all the white paper into the local languages, the various local languages, and disseminate it across the radio stations across the country. And that's what we did also with the TRRC report also. So basically, reaching out to the grassroots is very important. And then I think that is that enhance the process of public ownership of whatever the activity you are trying to implement. So it is very important that that we reach out to the many communities across the country. By using the different the dialects, different local languages. I think that will make the job even easier, and you can get more public support and public confidence in whatever the message you are trying to send across. So it is very important, and thank you for touching that. I think that is a very useful and important one. Thank you.
So Mr. Kejera, final question. You talked about the next government. Clearly, Barrow will have to face a commission. We have to defeat Barrow first. 2026 is looming. You did mention that at one time you ran for mayor, and I understand maybe it's Mayor Banjul. Do you have any ambition looking at 2026? And what's your take on how 2026 is shaping up, Mr. Kejera? Like I said, Barrow would have to be defeated to be able to face a commission. How do you think? Go ahead. Sorry.
2026, interesting times ahead. I think first of all, the Gambia government have gazetted the new draft constitution at the National Assembly. I think first of all, what we need to do is to encourage the deputies at the National Assembly to pass that that new constitution. I will deviate from many people because some of these people don't support the draft constitution. I think you cannot have it all. I think I am in favor for the deputies to pass the draft constitution because you have certain advantages that we need to look into, like the two-term mandate. Mm-hmm. Then when Barrow is out, you can work on the rest. But if we leave this thing to drag again until next election is here, Barrow is going to have the advantage of standing for 20 years, as long as Gambians are willing to vote for him. So first of all, I think we need to work on the constitution, the draft constitution, make sure that it passes at the deputies, at the National Assembly. Then we promote it at the local level for the Gambians to vote for it massively at a referendum, so that we can have that tool and that power in our hand to come together as one people, as Gambians, to mobilize supports as we did in 2016 to uproot Yahya Jammeh from power. The same way, Gambians should come together, all the parties should come together to form a very strong alliance, selflessly, to provide a leadership, not any leader, but a leadership that is up to the task, that has integrity, that is honest, that can, that lead the Gambia, to the former glory. I think, all the political parties need to come together and work on that. Without that, I don't see any way that they can uproot Barrow because he has the resources in his hand. He has the advantage of incumbency. The only way that we can uproot him is all the political parties, to look Gambia, before any political interest, to work together and make sure that 2026, this time around, Barrow is out because Barrow is incompetent. He doesn't have the intellectual pedigree as been mentioned by Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, his information minister, as we call him, this information minister who once stand, before all Gambians and said that Barrow lacks the intellectual pedigree. He don't have the capacity, to lead this country. So I think I respect that, and I still concur with Dr. Ismaila Ceesay for at least for being that honest to say that. And I think he also, and I think he still stand by his words. He's just looking after his personal interest. But I believe deep down from his heart, he knows that Barrow is incompetent. He cannot lead this country. So I think we should all work towards that. Like Momodu Sabali said, Barrow is leading a Kerenkafo who are bent on firing state resources, passing state resources as anyhow they want. Like Momodu Sabali said before, that Barrow is incompetent to manage the finances of this country. I think we should invite people like Momodu Sabali, to reiterate that position to Gambians that Barrow is still incapable and incompetent to lead this country beyond 2026.
Yeah, but Mr. Kejera, both Sabali and Dr. Cisse, they are dancing to a totally different tune. And knowing what you know, knowing the political parties in the Gambia, I mean, do you envisage what you're saying? Because I am very sympathetic for what you said about we need to pass this, we need to have a new constitution, however we do it, whatever compromises that needs to be done, so that we don't go to 2026 under the 1997 constitution. But most people are looking at this saying, this constitution is dead on arrival, this draft. And then we are going to be stuck with the 1997 constitution. Do you believe under the 1997 constitution, in the absence of any genuine coalition, can Barrow be removed from office come 2026?
In the absence of any genuine coalition, Barrow will win the polls. Barrow will win the polls. I mean, he still has the numbers, he still have the resources, but I mean, the majority obviously will work against him, because I don't think Barrow will have 51% clear majority. But I mean, as it stands now with the 1997 constitution, Barrow having 40%, leading the rest, Barrow will still win the polls. So when we have the new constitution, at least that will work in our advantage. I mean, to take the lead to the next level, like the second round, that all the political parties can come together, even if we don't have a coalition now, but we have the new constitution passed. At least the winner will have to make at least 51%. Right. To be the outright winner. So with the new constitution, at least we have that advantage. I mean, to go to the second round and then come together and then, I mean, dislodge Adam Barrow from power. But as it stands now, Barrow is having the advantage, I mean, of incumbency. He has the resources, I mean, he has all the tools, that he can use, I mean, to win the 2026 elections. So I think what is important now is Gambians to come together, and put Gambia first before any selfish interest. All the political parties need to work towards that. Even if we are going to have a neutral candidate that does not belong to any party, to lead us to, I mean, the 2026 polls. I think you can, even Musa can volunteer for that. Even Sariang, my Badibunga friend, can volunteer to lead the next coalition.
Mr. Kejera, it's a nice conversation. We definitely need to bring you back, because there's a lot of things to talk about, especially about 2026. But people are asking, but you, Kejera, what are you going to do to make sure that, especially this new accountability project Gambia, what are you guys going to do, practical enough, so that you can work on bringing these parties together? Like you said, in the absence of a coalition, we will never be able to bring Barrow to face a commission. That's my last question. And unless Sariang has something else, you can, we'll let you go.
I don't have anything.
Well, we just have to, I mean, do more engagement,
right?
And constructive engagement among the various political actors, to come together, to rally behind one flag bearer, I mean, to lead us to the 2026 polls, to make sure that, I mean, we put we set a new trajectory. I mean, for our country to take a new course on building, I mean, our nation, to build our democracy, I mean, to strengthen our economy, and to create a vibrant, I mean, the business and conducive environment for private sector, I mean, the investment to flourish, to invite the diaspora back into the playing field, both in governance, and the investment sectors, to play their role. The diaspora is very crucial. The role of the diaspora is very crucial in the national development. The program of this country, because they contribute about more than 30% of our GDP. So I think the diaspora have a great stake in whatever decision to be made. To change the trajectory of the course of our nation. To attain, the food self-sufficiency, infrastructural development, education, and many other sectors. To get the necessary improvement, they required. I think, that we need to build all key actors, both locally and in the diaspora, to come together and end this, the senseless, administration that is governing our country.
Thank you very much, Kejera. We definitely appreciate you, and we will bring you back.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right,
Mr. Kejera, thank you.
Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
All right.
Good night.
All right.
Barakabaki. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, man.
Okay.
Sorry, one thing we all know, though, the man doesn't mince his words. You gotta give him that.
No.
He doesn't mince his words. He calls it as he sees it. He's not someone who is afraid. I mean, I gotta give it to him, though, for real. I really, really, really have to give it to him. Yes. And but Brother Marong, he's talking about, before we get to the next segment, obviously we need to go to the ads, because we got to talk about Dr. Cisse. Kejera just mentioned Dr. Cisse, and oh my God, that we need to talk about. But again, we gotta go to the ads now. People who make these.
All right, run the ads. While I get my coffee and get it all hyped up.
Welcome to Kid Aisha Restaurant. We are located at 1460 Boston Road in the Bronx. We are open 7 days a week from 1 to 12 a.m. We serve Senegambian food and American soul food on Wednesdays and Senegambian food all 7 days. We do dine-in, we do takeout. We serve Chevigin, Cheviapa. We do Mafe, we do Plaza, we do Ebe every other day. We have Yassa Ganat with rice, Super Kanja with white rice and fufu. We serve a lot of delicious foods. For dinner, we do dibi, chicken dibi, penta, whole chicken. We have shawarma, lots of good food. Also offer catering services for weddings, baby showers, birthday parties, whatever you need. We got it here at Kid Aisha. You can call us at 718-450-8606. And we're also on Uber Eats. And if you've ever been to Kid Aisha, make sure you leave a review. Thank you guys for supporting, and we hope to see some new faces.
Like she's saying, if you live in the Bronx area, you're having a gente, you're having a small meetings, and then you want to order snacks, all you need to do is simple. Call that number, and they will take care of it for you. You don't have to call your cousin or your sister. I mean, that's old school. I mean, we've way gone past that. You want to help with the logistics? Call the restaurant. Like she said, they'll take care of it for you. Ain't that right, Brother Sarian?
Yes. He's the best. 5.0 rating, man, based on customers' review. So I mean, they have Uber Eats and they have delivery too, so they can come door to door, man. Door to door service, customer satisfaction, guarantee 100%, 100%.
When we manage delivery the DPP Mafaleka, I wish I could sit here in Atlanta.
No, I'm telling you, man. You know, they gave me some, I froze it, and it's in my freezer.
Oh, really?
No, seriously, it's I have it here.
Oh, you know what? Maybe I need to order and they put it on FedEx for me. That's all I need. No disrespect.
Paramos, I wrap that stuff and I put it in my check-in luggage. You know, my hand luggage. When they see that stuff, I put it in the foil. They say, "Oh, it has no liquid. Okay, good to go." Then you can roll that stuff in, man.
Yes.
New World International in its work to educate and sensitize overburdened communities regarding environmental justice. The meaning environmental justice is the idea that everyone should have equal protection from environmental risks and harms and equitable access to a healthy environment. NWI believes people should be meaningfully involved in decisions that affect the environment and human health. Here are some things you can do to help protect the environment. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. Volunteer for cleanups. Conserve water. Shop wisely. Use long-lasting light bulbs. Plant a tree. New World International in collaboration with the Washington State Department of Ecology will help provide training and equipment to help document and end environmental abuses. If you have any questions, contact New World at www.newworldinternational.org.
Brother Maron.
Media uses street.
Yes, sir.
You know, the thing that has been making the rounds is Dr. Ismaila Cisse, my good brother and friend. And you know, when he first got appointed as Minister of, I forgot the new name that he's putting out there, Minister of Information. I said it here, and I said it even behind the scenes, that he's definitely going to be an asset for the government. Because I thought any government, you really need someone who can go out there, because there has always been this, I mean, the government is doing a lot, but they have a communication problem. That was what everybody was saying. They're doing A, B, and C, but they don't have anyone who can go out there and definitely articulate their position, defend the government policies, put things out. And then when Dr. Cisse came, and then he started Mansakunda, he was on this platform, he was on Peter Gomez. I kept, even Basama, when we talk behind the scenes, and I think I mentioned this to you. I mean, you know what? You can disagree with the guy, but he's effective. But my brother, over time, I have a feeling that this job has gotten into his head. I was I went to, was it 2 weeks ago, I went to Boston and I met a good friend of his, someone who is really part of the CA. And I'm like, you know what? Your guy is good, but he doesn't really need to overspin. He doesn't really need to go out of his way. He just needs to come, because he is not the Minister of Information for Adama Barrow, the person, or the NPP government. He's Minister of Information for the government. And his job is to go out there and articulate the policies and programs of the government and defend it. There's nothing wrong with that. Any reasonable person would expect that. But bro, this latest statement, I cannot understand what got into him. The banging of the table, talking about Nasen Bay Momom Dekabi. Why do you borrow the far run pepper bala midi? Are you the Minister of Information for the government? Or are you the minister? What has that got to do with your job about who is going to win the next election? I think maybe Dr. Cisse is getting carried away. I also believe, even politically, he's becoming not sycophantic, but also very short-term oriented. When I was in Gambia last year, I mean, we had a couple of meetings at Batambedu's house for lunch. And I told him, Doctor, you're Tangayakanti. Tangayakanti, everything that you did, I thought, sometimes you have to play the long game. There's nothing wrong with to be ambitious. But my friend, why does he, and he's doing the same thing. Why does he have to say that? What's in it for him to say that? And I'm talking about politically. You are disrespecting people. We all came together to bring an end to tyranny, to usher in a new way of doing business. For people to say that Barrow should not run third term, I think that's a legitimate, fair statement that anyone can make. Because ñun self-perpetuating. That's why we wanted Jammeh to be gone. So that we can have a government that will be elected for 2 terms. We believe that is good for our democracy, that is good for our development as a people. Now, and that was his position, Doctor himself. Now that, whether you believe it or not, but really that the statement that he made, I mean, I think it was disrespectful for people in the diaspora and disrespectful to even himself, if you ask me. You see, I expect such statements to come from, no disrespect to a Henry Gomez. I expect a statement to come from Dusano. These are political operatives, or the Sidinjais of this world. But not him, not because of he has capacity, no, because of his role as a Minister of Information. First of all, you need a buy-in. You need to be respected by the citizens too as well. And to do that, you have to establish credibility. Stick to the issues. Nobody doesn't expect you to come and say something against the government. But your role is to articulate the government policies, get feedback from citizens, advise the government accordingly. That's what you need to do. So this whole overspinning, over-talking, there's no corruption in the Gambia. I mean, the very obvious that people are going to listen to you and say, you know what, this guy is not serious. Why would you want to do that? That's a very silly statement to make, really. Now, some people are saying he's insulting our fathers. Man, I don't take it that way. Or anything like that. But I think it's a very silly statement to make, very disrespectful to citizens and to himself as well. I don't know how you see it, Sarian, but very, very disappointing coming from Doctor.
Paramos.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, as I said, I've also watched it, and I've been following Dr. Ismaila for a while, and I think if we all had to agree is, being in a position of a minister today, you have to take the work very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Defend the policies that the government instituted. No problem with that. But if you go overboard, you sit on platforms like Coffee Time. He goes on Coffee Time. There was one time, I think 3 weeks ago, even Peter was telling him, I don't want to use the L word on you, Yeah. I know exactly what you said here before. I think you have to be very, very mindful, very, very mindful. And, sometimes you can tell the pitch of his voice, even for Peter. Peter is very cordial. Some folks get mad at him, but he has to conduct that fine line. If someone comes in before you and he comes on your platform, despite you disagree with him, you have to treat him or her with respect and
Absolutely.
dignity. You ask the right questions and have him answer. Then folks make the decision whether they agree with his answers or not. But I think this whole thing again, it tallies on when he came to New York and saying the police officer should arrest someone or reporting someone and going out there, sitting on that and saying visually and hitting the table that, whether some of them Ndoi. We're not his Ndo. For me, I know him since he was a little boy. So obviously, I know the entire family too. So I'm not his Ndo by every measure. You are not his Ndo. And we've been through this fight when Jammeh was here. So we're not criticizing for him. But I think if you deeply care about people, respect goes both ways, right? You want to be treated with respect. Don't be condescending on those words, because people are saying Barrow, with what he served 10 years, the incompetency, the massive corruption whatsoever, it's okay for citizens to say, you know what, you did 10 years, let's try someone else, right? It's perfectly okay. Well, when you go on several media platforms, you really pay a deaf ear to that. He sat on there and said there is no corruption. He said it, right? I mean, he came on this platform. I asked him about the lack of a robust security outfit. He says there was no security problems in Gambia, right? But every time we hear stuff, that we hear issues and all that stuff. So you can as a minister, you got to take your job very seriously, but don't overreach, right? You become like a puppet that you cannot speak truth to power. I really don't think that's the essence of, because if he can, and I think everyone needs to take a chill pill and reflect on every single thing that has been happening. Jammeh was there for 22 years. Jammeh was pounding his chest. He was telling people, even days like major holiday celebrations, he was telling folks, he was arresting imams and telling them, you cannot pray here. They can be makomon.
Exactly.
You know, and all that stuff. But where is he today? He's gone. Where is his assets being confiscated? Where is he? He is in Equatorial Guinea, in a small island where he could not even, see some of his close family friends. So you have to be careful. Barrow is not going to be there for perpetuity. And if anyone thinks that, you're fooling yourself. I don't care. He himself was pounding his chest, his grandkids, I think that is hyperbole and nobody cares about it. I just laugh those things because it's foolishness, because he's not going to be there. I know that. And the world has changed. If you look at our close proximity, the country next to us, Senegal, they are really, really fighting these issues. Corruption, enrichment, going out there facing the population and getting visually angry, because he was angry, saying that whoever called for Barrow, you know what? Barrow drive his stuff. Let's take the message to the voters. Play your part, but don't be condescending. It's not a way of being a leader. And especially when you have said something in the past and your position has changed drastically on what you said today. And you really think you need to bamboozle people? People have a short amnesia. Somehow they need to forget about everything that you said and what you are in today because you have a position. I think he needs to reflect on these sentiments very, very well. And I wish him all the best. But I think he's falling off the tracks. And I think it's not a good way to be in, especially if folks, this is a man too, but let's not also forget, he is a political science professor.
Exactly.
What has he read? What was he teaching? Is it now part of a political process to have divergent views? You do it by persuasion. You talk to the other side to move them, to convince them they need to be on your side. Not to be posturing, not to be going out there and making these type of statements or misleading statements. I really think it's very, very, very concerning. And he needs to be very careful. We've been through this before. We've seen people who've done this. And where are they today? And I think you have to be measured in your utterances. This fight today, luckily, they are in the powerhouse, but there are people whose blood and treasure, they've paid their dividends. They're not with us today. You have to respect those people. Is that their will? So stuff like that, when you say it, you bring all kind of worms, and you get people all agitated, and it's not a position to be in. You have to be measured. You have to be measured in what you say. But if you go in there, you're overshooting. If coach says stuff, you say, "Oh, he's not a real Democrat." But what do you mean by he's not a Democrat? You are suppressing someone who has a divergent view, and he's been on this track for a while. 2 weeks ago, I didn't want to call him out on this, but it's becoming a daily occurrence. He wants to take people on. What do? You want to say, what is that? Is he trying to impress Barrow? I mean, you do your job. Hold him, talk to him. That's what you're supposed to, as an intellectual. Guide him. Challenge him. Speak true to power. Not be a freaking coward and talking stuff that is not, that's utterly nonsense. I think that is just not right. And he needs to dial back a little bit and reflect on these things. I think it's very, very important.
He needs to do much more than dial back. Now, there's something that you said. When he called coach undemocratic, boom, I agree.
He said what?
He called coach undemocratic, boom, I agree.
What do you mean you agree on that?
Oh, coach. So, Ismail is a
well, sorry, I greet you, my brother, and don't listen to Musa. I was on and off listening, but I just could not miss this. When I saw Ismaila do that and hit the table, you know what it reminded me of? You remember when Jammeh was talking about Dekabi Makomom? It's kind of nonsensical and comical, but it speaks to more than that. It speaks to the lack of core beliefs of most people. There are people who come and they are false prophets. They sell us all these ideas of who they are and where they want to see the country. So for people who formed a political party, wrote a constitution, I think it's Article 7, Section 4, Subsection 1 of their constitution, that's the CA constitution, that says that not the president, but the flag bearer is term limited to running twice.
Yes.
That all other executive members are term limited. And then you go and you are espousing for somebody to abrogate that very idea. Self-perpetuating rule is one of the reasons why people said enough of Jammeh's rule.
Absolutely.
There is evidence that anybody who perpetuates him or herself in power will end up being so consumed with protecting such a power that they will become brutal. We have seen it in most countries. There was something that doctor said, which is true. The dëkk bi bàyyi kenn moomu ko. Waaye nag lu waroon mooy bàyyi benn bàyyi nit moomu ko. Biir dëkk bi ñun ñëpp a ci am. Gannaaw benn bàyyi nit moomu ko moo tax dëkk bi ñu ne nañ ko pencoo duñ ko pàccoo. Sorry that I have to go into Wolof. Pàccoo ko nag mooy kenn jël akiimu li nga xam ne mooy doole réew mi boppi réew mi ngoyale ci ban faa jógee. Su fekkee ne loolu am na kon kooku nag dafa mel ni moom réew mi. Musa, it is so sad if Dr. Sisi and Adama Barrow have their way. When Gambia celebrates its 70th independence anniversary, we would have had only 3 presidents through our lifetime. There is something that Adama Barrow said, that he is the father of NPP. And if you're the father, you would want to see your kids pretty much to inherit you, isn't it? So, and your grandkids to inherit. I wanted to say something to Adama Barrow to that. Sadauda Jawara was the father of self-perpetuating rule.
PPP.
32 years in power. Yahya Jammeh became the son of self-perpetuating rule. 22 years in power. And by the way that Barrow is going, he's not going to be the father, he's going to be the grandson of self-perpetuating rule. But there is another way. He can become the father of the nation when it comes to ending self-perpetuating rule.
Mm-hmm.
He can set a precedence where he would have been the first president in the history of our country who served for 2 terms. In addition to that, he would also be the first president ever to oversee a peaceful transfer of power. Musa, do you know we do not have any set policies on how to transfer power in our country? It has never happened. What was more beautiful than for us to see Macky Sall with all his problems transfer power peacefully
to
July.
Yes.
And the new government said, you know what, take the state airplane to take you to where you want to go because you are the former president of this country. Musa, all our presidents lived in exile. And if I were Adama Barrow, I would want to be the different one. But you see, the situation that we have in our country for too long, Musa, when the people surrounded our leaders by those who are more interested in what is in it for them than what is in it for you, the president or the nation. Musa, it was not too long ago in December of 1991 when Sadauda Jawara stood in Mansakonko at the PPP Congress and said it is time for him to retire. That if he were a civil servant, he would have retired a long time ago. People cried on that podium. People formed their different groups. They said they were convincing him to run again because you are the only one capable of running that country. And Sadauda made the sad mistake of listening to them. 3 years later, his government was no. And guess what happened? Most of those who were telling him that you should not go anywhere, you're the only one who can run this country, very quickly became friends of Yahya Jammeh.
The new government.
Today, to see somebody like Sidi Njai, let's remember, the man who was the face of Jammeh's defiance, a defiance that could have gotten thousands of Gambians killed if those bombs were to drop in our country to force Jammeh out. The same man who accompanied Yahya Jammeh in solidarity up to Equatorial Guinea. When he saw Equatorial Guinea and realized there is nothing here for me, what did he do? He found his way back to the Gambia. And before you know it, the Adama Barrow that he did not want to be president became his cousin now. He's my distant cousin. Now we are family. So if Adama Barrow continues to listen to people who do not believe in even anything that they say, he will be making a fool of himself. This government has not moved the needle when it comes to the livelihood of the Gambian people. People are suffering in that country. And Adama Barrow is not the solution to that suffering. There is not a single institution in that country, Musa, that can put their hands up in the air and say that we are really doing what we are supposed to do for the people. Our people continue to live in abject poverty while they travel everywhere. They are all over the world, everywhere. You turn around, there is a minister. It's like they have a meeting and say, you know what, we have to go to make sure every continent there is somebody there this week. So they just travel. They have their padians while we continue to wallow in abject poverty. But again, if you, Dr. Cisse, to me, I like the guy. You know, I think he's a nice guy. But I think he has lost the plot. Musa, and finally, there's something, I was writing something, I started writing, then I got tired, I stopped. You see, some people will ask me sometimes, why do you support Doi? And the answer is simple. I do not always necessarily agree with the approaches. But you know why I support them, Musa? Because these are people who have core beliefs. Irrespective of what it is, it doesn't matter how palatable it is. They would stick to their guns because they believe in something. And this is why, for over 4 decades, they are who they are today, Musa. They could have easily done like a Dr. Sise, abandon a project and join the next government that comes in and become a mouthpiece. They could have done that.
Yeah.
But they chose not to because they believe in something. They are called rigid, they are called this, they are called that. But Musa, anybody who does not have anything that you believe in, why you said to be you have to believe in something. And that believing in something, you have to believe in it and go to the extent, even if you are even going to live in abject poverty, let them remember you as the poor man who believed in something. But don't be rich on false promises.
But you know, though, I'm all for, even if, let's say that even you don't have core beliefs, even because in politics, sometimes your ambition, you can be very opportunistic. I mean, I get that. But my friend, even politically, be very smart about it. Even if you're opportunistic, because some of the things that Dr. Sise is doing, forget about he's just doing it for ambition, for himself, he's opportunistic, but it's also stupid politically, if you ask me. Remember, I said the statement that he made, I could hear that from Henry Gomez, and I wouldn't even, I'll brush it aside. Dr. Sise is a little bit different from some of the people that are serving in the cabinet. Let's say you take somebody like Nyombai Boy. These are not political people. They were brought in. But Dr. Sise is a politician who formed a political party that was running against this government. So, Mom, when it comes to his utterances and pronouncement, he needs to be a little bit, I wouldn't even say careful, but be very political about it. But that's not what I'm seeing. When I remember, I mentioned that I talked to one of his friends who's supposed to be in CA. So, Munema, no, doctor, people are misjudging him. Actually, he's in NPP, and he's going to be the agent of change within NPP. In other words, he'll be steering the ship of NPP in the right direction. I want to remind my friend, does this doctor sound like someone? If you want to bring about change, you join the group, and then you become the agent of that change. But the guy is not demonstrating those traits at all. Doctor, the thing has gotten into his head. He has become so, what I would say, short-term in some of these moves that he's making. That is going to help him politically. But I'm telling you, Dr. Sise is not going to be one of the, look, this generation is going to hand over to a new generation of politicians. And I want to tell Dr. Sise today, you are basically working so hard to remove yourself out of that crop of politicians that will be taken seriously. Look, the Gambian people are changing, and they are changing immensely. And what Doctor is doing, seriously, is undermining his credibility politically and disrespecting himself and disrespecting citizens. Bro, when you are a minister for any portfolio, you're not only serving a cabinet, you're also serving the Gambian people. Your job is to get a buy-in from them. Doctor, as information minister, articulate the position of the government. Defend it, you're supposed to. Come on, information minister, I will defend the position of the government. What I will not do is, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to sell my soul, and I will never disrespect the Gambian people. So Doctor is working extremely hard to undermine his credibility. No one is going to take him seriously. Forget about partisans. You can do no right. reasonable people are not going to take you seriously because they are like, man, he's just another opportunistic guy. I mean, and it's sad. I mean, it's really sad. When Doctor came to New York 2-3 weeks ago, Nyom Solbaji, all of them came after me because of the position that I took, that they should not be disrespected. That's not the way to do it. But when you do something like that, come on now. I mean, I just, to be very candid, Pasamba, forget about core beliefs. What he's doing is, I think, is stupid and is ineffective. And I once called him an asset of this government, but now I don't know. He's undermining. He has become a liability, if you ask me. Because if you cannot convince a buy-in from the citizens to give you the benefit of the doubt, you are not an asset anymore, but a liability to the government. And I'm not talking about, because you are not a cabinet minister for Barrow, you are not a cabinet minister for NPP, you are not a cabinet minister to talk about Nebara for around 3 times. That is not your job, my friend. It is not his job to do that. And it's just sad, very sad. Saul Baji, I know you are here, but you can also talk about, I mean, Ismail, unless Pasamba, I'm not know what a job you are. If you wanna
No, Musa, I think you've just touched the points, and I'll have time to delve into this some more. But you know what? I've like me now. I've made a decision long time ago that nothing is going to surprise me about Gambians anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so you can come and listen. I would listen to you, but let me just stick to my Madi Jabates, Alaji Barros, and all those people, because I know damn well they are not going to switch side on
They ain't
any.
going nowhere.
They ain't going anywhere, because and you know what those people have. You have to have core beliefs. I understand what you're saying, but without it, Musa, even what you're saying, respecting yourself, going there. If you were appointed, you would do the job because you have core beliefs. You believe that this is what I am supposed to do. Nothing is going to deviate me from doing that. But when you are so consumed, you know, there was a time I wrote something on my wall. Everybody started jumping all over the place. To speak truth to power. Why? If you are consumed by Buka Plus, Buka Allen, you will never be able to tell whoever appoints you the truth. And that's what it is. But anyway,
Brother Saul Baji, last week, so what have been a mistake. I'm going to make sure I sent you the link. So how you been?
I've been good.
I
A little busy.
People of Michigan.
Huh?
I hope you used to live there, especially the Muslim or Muslim brothers. I'm beginning to be very mad at them.
Yeah, because I'm going to talk about that quickly here. Lulmota, I had to put some notes in front of me. Why coach Nuinala? I think for the very first time, this now coach, I can sense in his heart and hearing from his voice that coach is just pretty much borderline close to giving up on everything we have been struggling for our country because of no. Wahuma give up the struggle there. But I think he's feeling like the Gambia is getting to the point where when we make the effort to try to change the way people think, the way people should be thinking, the way in our totality, we're just hitting the wall, and people are not. We're not factoring in all of the changes that are happening around us. Man, how much lola on it? But because last week, Demuna coach, I heard you guys in that discussion about our healthcare system. Again, following what that guy, Mr. Monday, wrote about the Demand Hospital. To be honest with you, Musa, after listening to you guys, coach, on that day, it's like a brick hit my head because I became so cold. I must start to feel that the Gambia is at a situation for Hamne. Even though, man, for all these 3 years, feel that we have failed as a country. Musa Buguda believe no, but I think now he may have a change of heart, or he thinks because there's a government there, it has not failed. No, that's not how it works. Well, all of our institutions are they're all rotten. You know what I mean? ROTTEN, all of our institutions. Because I do not see the president of the Gambia, Adama Barrow, standing up and saying, here's what I want to do tomorrow, the day after, and within the next 2 years. This is what problem be more this is the solution, and short term, medium term, long term. I'm not seeing those things. Te loolu moo ma gën a jaaxal. But Musa, let me pivot back to what is very important. I'm a little
Yeah.
disappointed. Like, xam nga suñ nit ñi, you were talking to Mr. Kejera. I looked at the numbers of the people who are watching. Wax dëgg yàlla Gambia, nañ pay attention to everything that is happening in our country.
They're not interested in issues
Especially,
like that.
no, Musa, man loolu moo ma dee jaaxal. This is why I just had that feeling the other day bu ma dégloo ñoom coach ñi wax about our healthcare system. But let me appeal to all of our Gambians, ñi nekk di déglu, for the people, by the people. Nga xam ne this program, the title by itself tells you that a government cannot be, in this day and age, elected by the people and turn around and act like a monarchy. That shouldn't be allowed. We're going to accept. And maa ngi appeal suma gars yi waa Michigan, they've been sending me messages. Man, and we've already voted. Here in Maryland, it's a different thing. But let me appeal to all of our Gambian brothers and sisters and the children, ñi nga xam ne di second and third generations. So fekkee you have the ability and you have the documents, you're legally here and you can vote, go and vote. Make sure you participate in the elections because they are consequential. Why? Elections, they have consequences. Musa, in 2016, 16% of Muslims voted for Donald Trump. In 2030, I'm going to 2030, sir. In 2020, after knowing all of the things that guy has done, 30% of Muslims voted for Donald Trump. And NPR reported this. And the saying is some of those numbers are aligned with the people who have become Muslims, but they are traditionally the Caucasian folk. Degala, why my question is, don't they realize the importance? If we're julit lañ xanaa ñoom waruñoo toog ñu xalaat ne ñun suñ dunda bi ñoo dunda nii si àdduna bi dafa am responsibility bu ñu jox. Friday maa ngi woon si jumaa ji imam bi, he's a scholar, he's been teaching for 40 years, a great guy, he's older now. We don't explain in the masjid, they can talk about sensitizing people to go and vote, but they cannot legally tell you to go vote for this particular person. But he put out a few points. Mune, in his years of being here and observing what happens, he believes Muslims should consider one, who is there to stand up for justice? Who is there to impose and fight to make sure there's peace in the United States, there's a semblance of unity, and also peace around the world? Who is there to make sure that they provide equity for the poor man and the rich man to be able to make sure that everybody has a stake in the development of their country? So he put out those things, and then he talks about who is there to make sure that whatever faith you have, that you can exercise your religious faith without any impediments, without fear of somebody else coming in here or coming and try to impose their will on you. That we can accept people for who they are and promote the United States for what it is, the melting pot. If you are convinced that one of these two candidates can give you all of those four or the majority of them, then go out and vote for that person. This is what he said. So, Kariang, I don't know if you heard me, but I did mention 30% of Muslims voted for Trump in 2020 after all of the things we have seen him do. What do you think would be the percentage of Muslims who are going to vote for him this time around? I do not know. But I leave that to Gambians and Africans and all like-minded people, be it whether you are a U.S. citizen or not. You have to consider some of these things that I said. You can throw them out if you want. But there is something that I want to add to this, Musa, before I pivot to Gambia. If we say, and this is why I've emphasized about this critical thinking, analytical thinking, and being able to use your mind, nga seet ndax di nga sega li nga wax ni ak li nga gis dafa make sense or not. If you think Joe Biden was old, and people claim that he's senile, and Joe does have a speech impediment. I have talked about that because I'm a special ed teacher, so I have empathy for people who have disabilities. But if we thought Joe Biden was old enough, and Musa, you've said that because you felt that the elections was going in the wrong direction, and rightly so, because people felt like that. Joe is not far-fetched as far as age with Trump. So if we feel this guy is too old, that perhaps he's not going to be able to do the job in the next 4 years, and we wanted a change, and we gave it to Kamala. What makes us think that if we elected this guy, Trump, that in 2 years he would be about the same age as Joe Biden as the president? What makes us think that this guy would be better in terms of thinking and decision making and being nuanced and subdued in his actions compared to Joe Biden? What makes you think that that person would be able to give us something better than Joe at that age in 2 years from now if he were to be elected? I want people to think about that. So let me pivot to Gambia, Musa. Our healthcare system, deja. It's a very sad situation because keroog lu ma wax comme lu ma doon wax coach rek di ma déglu Dr. J di explain experience am. You have had that experience, Musa. I'm being honest with you. I've been thinking that about Bugadem Banjul, and I'm not scared of Adama Barrow, Hamna Lulu. But now I am worried because of my situation. God forbid if something happens while I'm in that country. What healthcare system do we have that would take care of me or even my children? When Santana Ayala last year my kids went, but they are not going to Gambia right now because Degluna Dr. J. Lumwa. I have had my experiences, Musa. You have had your experience with your son last year. I was cold. It's a situation. What is going on? So even the private hospitals, they may not have a doctor on standby to serve you if there was an emergency. So if something happens to you, you're to the hospital, how are you going to get treated, Musa? And we're not thinking. I'm not there, man, to talk, my next door neighbor. I'm not, I don't know, man, I just do my thing. We've lived together here for 8 years. He's right there. He's a pilot. He has a little plane right at the hangar here in Hagerstown, Fumadekani. He came back and he and I were chit chatting. Mangi talks to Whenever, you know what, I just came back from flying over. I said, well, I showed some planes. Whenever, yeah, I was flying. I have one. My dad built it, and I helped him build it. Mama Mag a couple of years. I've retired. Whenever so I went to fly, I put it back in the hangar. And I'm thinking to this guy, Mange Halat Muma externally, wow. It's amazing how people behave and they think. How Lulu, why Muma explain Lulu. But what is the difference, Musa? I thought about the demo, wow. What is stopping us as a country instead of buying these 100 vehicles worth millions of dollars? If we were to have a medical helicopter, we make a emergency to the hospital quickly. Musa, we don't even have the ambulances you in an emergency. If somebody gets a heart attack, if somebody gets some kind of a situation how do you transport that person? Wow. Wow.
Please will you a helicopter. They would not maintenance it. They don't even, have you even been to Quadrangle? Even paint tour. Just to paint.
Yeah.
You see the oil paint we has been there for so long, maybe since 1665, but Musa Jeng that it has oiled up. You know how oil paint after a while it just coiled up?
I hear they the petroleum. They add petroleum to this paint. To paint.
So believe me, helicopter
guys, getting ambulances there. At least give the devils his due. Ambulances were.
I'll give you that.
I saw a picture where they were trying
I'm just saying.
put three people in an ambulance. They were trying
to put right? To be serious though, Musa. So I thought about these things, man. We are not thinking. Healthcare. Okay. Now, when it comes to education, Musa, isn't that education be Confucius, me Chinese, be the more decades ago, over 300, 200 years ago, education that they create confidence, bobo more they create hope, and hope creates peace. We all know this. Luta Halene Kaditamambalu in the streets, and they're creating all kinds of havoc. Rob Nini, people are there's uncertainty. Why do we allow our country to fall into this chaotic situation? But to the extent that Nene Frida, they've robbed her twice. If you went to Gambia today, you have to worry about two things: my safety, and if something happens to me, who's going to take care of me health-wise? So we also you say can encourage Gambia. So quickly, the other thing I want to talk about, Moine, out of these 29,000 kids, 936, if we had 88 kids, six aggregate, Musa, that's a disaster. What is the plan for Adama Barrow to talk about the situation we have hit? And this has been going on. It's worse this year, but for the past 7 years, Adama Barrow's am 5 credits or better, including math and English. Musa is 5%. It's always below 4%, below 5%. So we have a population of youth they are not capable, and they talk about this. The people who built this battle hiding highway, where are they from? Most of these young people are from other countries. We give them these jobs, and we're not realizing this. We take any digging whatever earning income they invested back in the country. So back over to this investment thing, Musa, because this is now Bua Sedi, what is the central bank governor doing in the United States when we have a failed economy? What is he doing here? Why can't the Minister of Finance come? Why can't the Minister of Foreign Affairs come and advocate on the behalf of the government to reach out to the diaspora to talk about this toll road? This toll road thing, okay, I'm not going to discount it. It's a good idea. But what is the plan right now to take care of the traffic woes we have in the country? What is the short term, medium term plan to take care of that? Because this toll road project, how many years is it going to take?
You live in Maryland, right?
Yeah.
I think there is a need to engage them. We engage them here in Atlanta. We ask the tough questions. They answer some questions. I think that's all we can do. When they come to Maryland, the Saul Badges of this world should seriously engage these folks because I think that they have a message. Whether one disagrees with the message or not, I mean, if there's one thing that we can all agree upon, that there is a need for a road like that.
Okay. Let me give you that.
I mean, knowing that Gambia is a very corrupt system, I mean, one can be very cynical and say, am I going to take my $10,000, $15,000 and invest in this thing? What are the guarantees? Those are the questions that need to be asked. But do I believe that they have an idea? Or they have a hell of an idea? Seriously. And I think the Gambia, especially in the diaspora, should be open to it, should listen to it. No.
I would agree with you, Musa. Then I agree with you on this point now. First thing first, somebody sent me this stuff. I'll try to go there, but you know what? My message is not about this investment. And when Bua said he cannot give my message to Adama Barrow or the National Assembly, where is my right to participate in the elections in our country?
Somebody asked that question. And
okay.
This is what even the minister himself said. This was Mbai Boy. Look, there are a lot of issues out there that we can discuss. We did not come here to deal the politics of whether the diaspora should vote or not. In as much as it's an important issue, the issue that we are talking about, this national investment, Lolumonyu Indifini. That was his response.
Okay.
Again, someone asked that question that you're talking about. Believe me.
Yeah.
That is why I say the engagement is important. So that we can ask the questions and they will furnish with answers and you can judge or not.
Yeah, so coach, can you remind Gambians about this constitution that gives us the right to participate in the elections and why the government is even not thinking about imposing that or implementing it? Not my problem, because it's illegal. It's legal. It's in the documents. You guys went to court and the Supreme Court gave you the win that we should be able to participate in election and be voted for. What is the problem?
Well, it looks like these people are not interested in us voting because of their belief that we are a monolithic group, the same way that Jammeh was thinking. That these diaspora people, they hate me. If they get the vote, I can lose because they know the numbers in the diaspora.
Yeah.
But again, anybody who calls yourself a Democrat, you should not be restricting other people's rights to participate in the democratic process. So maybe those can I Democrat? That's where their starting point should be. Because you cannot be democratic when you don't want other Gambians as you to participate in the democratic process. Definitely. There is no provision in our constitution that says that we cannot vote. when Halifa came here, I was watching Ben interview with Amona Musa, and he was talking about even the election decree, the constitution, the election decree talked about registering Gambians in the diaspora. That was a decree.
In 1994, right?
Yes. Since then, we've been in this. Musa would tell you, we wrote to the IEC.
Yes.
2003, 2004.
Yes.
We sent JC Jackson.
Yes. A letter. Copy of that
to
letter.
make sure that you just make sure that the diaspora voted. We've been working on this for a very long time. There is no constitutional provision, no act of parliament, no laws that say we cannot participate in the process. And to tell you the danger, there is a saying in Wolof, ku anyane sa dono. Yeah. When they said that they were going to have the registration of voters, we were part of the schedule. It was allocated for in the budget. But when Barrow decided, you know what, this is not working for me, the IEC agreed with him and started coming with excuses. No, we have to amend Section 39 of the Constitution because of the diaspora is not a constituency. We're saying, let's start with the presidential itself. Everywhere is a constituency. It is one constituency. So that's we had lawyers who tell them, no, there should be no constitutional amendments. But they were playing games. And then the finance minister went before parliament and said, well, no, the diaspora vote was never budgeted for. I raised the issue, talked about the numbers, 122 million for registration of voters. The allowances, 22 million. Travels, allowances, 45 million, travels, 22 million. Why would you need 22 million to travel Gambia, right? Forget them. The country is 11,000 square meters or whatever, square miles or whatever it is.
Yes.
It's a small place. But then people were not looking at the issue there. And guess what happened? These people had excess money. They had to use it somehow. Allowances were there, travels were there. They started talking about we are transferring this much money into private accounts. They had to put it somewhere. It was already allocated for that. They went greedy. The money was too much. They had to have their money. If the diaspora had participated, they would have still had their money, but it would have been a lot more legitimate. So this is the problem. But again, Saul, the issue here is our opposition. When I raised the issue on the constitutionality of the past continue to occupy that position, it was nothing to do with the power, the individual. It was the principles of democracy. I argued and they agreed. So in private. Now the man's term expired since 2018. But nobody wanted to do anything. Elections came, you lose, you want to argue about elections being stolen. When I raised it again, before the National Assembly elections, the Attorney General went on Peter Coffee Time and said, I think Coach is wrong this time around. It did not take 2 hours after that. I got a call that they went and kissy the act and realized that I was right. But to save face, they came and did something that was unconstitutional again. They were now extending the past contract until March of 2025. Powers they did not have. So they arrogated themselves powers they did not have to save face. Our opposition, who are full of lawyers, decided it's not an important issue to talk about. So if the diaspora does not vote, I'm not only blaming Barrow on it. All the stakeholders should make sure it happens. The interparty, all the other stakeholders, National Assembly and everybody else. And us, what can we do? We went to the courts. The court said, you have the right to vote. They've been telling us, you go to the courts, organize yourself, utilize the courts. We utilize the courts. The courts agreed with us. Now the implementation of that, the government want to renege on it. And everybody want to sit and just say, you guys diaspora will, and everybody will tell you, you guys should vote. That's what they tell you.
Yeah.
But I think the Sulan Fulale, maybe it will become an issue. But it is what it is.
So let me segue from Musa Saryang, what Coach just said.
We're getting to the tail end.
Yeah.
I mean, we were supposed to end at 3 p.m. because you know my man is a newlywed. He can't be staying on this.
Saryang, you're in big trouble, man.
I don't want Jainaba Dima Helu Fini. Why are you keeping my man?
Why Musa, just to wrap up quickly, it's got to be by Saryang with them. So I shared with you guys in the summer from the data that was collected by Gambians. I gave you the numbers, and a good estimated amount of 400,000 of us are in the diaspora.
So,
Huh?
but don't forget too. You got to talk about the stadium too a little bit because you guys forgot about that one, man.
Oh yes. You know
what's up with that?
I just said there is no institution that is functioning to what is expected, at least to some semblance of it. All of these institutions are rotten. I just said that. So quickly, if we have that amount of Gambians in the diaspora, and what Ethiopia did, we already know that they built that dam. The majority of the funding came from the diaspora. Toll Road Bini. But then last week, you guys were in this conversation with Dr. What you call it again, Gajigo, who was arguing against these so-called asset recycling. Musa,
right?
If you have this amount of Gambians in the diaspora, let's say maybe because Spain right now should have about 9,000, probably maybe 10 or 12,000 of them. So while Luma calculate more in the diaspora, what's some of us in the West, we should have about say 200, close to 200,000 of us. Okay, if they came to us, you contribute towards the building of that bridge, the Senegambia bridge. Let's use that as an example. Instead of going to this Africa 50, New Deal for 100 million. If they came to us, Yo Musa, Mansari, and Coach, and everybody else, and they say, look, we need to raise $100 million for this bridge to be able to function so we can use the money and invest in something else. You know that we would have been able to cough up money and buy shares to build and do whatever they want and give the government that money. And they would have been in a better position to reinvest that money and put it in a good place than with them deal 100 million, for 15, 25 years. And now they're caught up in this situation. You give them a defender, they can't beat a bridge somewhere else. Musa, if you do the numbers, let me calculate money, 50,000, okay? 50,000 or 100,000 Gambians. So you don't contribute an average $2,000 there. That's $200 million. If you put that out there, just like they're talking about this toll road, Gambians, and you contribute $200 million of you and I investing in that bridge. Mu or Sonko ak Joma ñu build a port in Ziguinchor. Senegal is produce petroleum. They're gonna have byproducts. LNG dafa ñew. Do you imagine the transportation that is going to be used through that corridor and how much revenue we would have collected? It's $44 million a month from that bridge, which is why the money was not enough because there was stealing going on. So it means the government didn't know how to manage their resources to hold people accountable. So if I take on NIA people, you fail in Halis Baringa and make sure that one penny doesn't go out of there. We would have kept that bridge and it would be still ours. But we've just given that infrastructure to somebody else.
There is something that you said.
Yes.
And they did, when you're present, there is this guy, Dr. I think, the deputy governor, Dr. Sire Jallo.
Yes.
He's the one who actually came up with this whole idea of relying on the diaspora for major projects. And he said, this is where you talk about the bridge. They said that. They said, look, the bridge cost about $80 million to build it. When they look at the amount of money coming from the diaspora, which is almost $700 million.
748, 748 this past year, 748
right.
million.
But yes, around the neighborhood. But the point is, after looking at that data and looking at foreign direct investment, which is about, I think he said about 150 million, something like that, and a bridge costing 80 million, they're thinking, you know what? Maybe we're looking at the wrong places. Maybe now is the time we come up with an idea whereby we can go to Gambians themselves, especially in the diaspora. Instead of taking loans, paying interest, let's come up with this idea so that they can invest and buy shares in future projects that we have. You know what I'm saying, Baba? Explaining just like what you just said. Now, are they being truthful? I don't know. Are they being genuine? I don't know. But the idea that you just said, they're saying they were able to run the numbers. That is why they came up with this idea. Instead of, because I even asked them a question about this Africa 50. I'm like, okay, you guys just got $100 million. Now, why wouldn't you take that money and invest it in this toll road? You know what I mean? Because you already have that money. And instead of coming to us. And then they explain. That's why I said, people just need to engage them. Because in the absence of a dialogue and a conversation, I mean, you just, even if we're cynical, even if we don't trust them, I think as Gambians, we need to open up and engage these people and challenge them. August asked them a very tough question. Hey, August, after that, I'm going to do the Sariang today. An extremely tough question, August, seriously. I mean, it took 3-4 of them to answer it. And some of these, I have to give it to Boasedi. I know Yanko Dish, but really, I mean, he attempted to answer most of these questions. The same thing with the minister, and then there was this other young guy who I was definitely very impressed with, that he knows what he's talking about, and Dr. Sire Jallo as well. But again, they're going to go to Dallas, they're going to go to Seattle, they're going to go to Madison, and they're going to come to Maryland. I mean, let's have this conversation. And each and every one of us would have to make a decision. I mean, is this the way to, I mean, they have this booklet that they're giving people. I mean, explaining everything, the road itself, and it is what it is, seriously. I mean, we just have to do things differently. Gambia is our Gambia, and it needs to be developed, whether under this government or the next government that comes in. I am one of the people that believe that Gambia will never develop without the active participation of the diaspora. That is why it is important for us to vote. That is why it's important for, projects like this, for them to build bridges with us, to see the amount of financial muscle we have that could make a difference. We have to start from somewhere. And maybe this is a new beginning. I don't know.
Musa, all that stuff is good, but like, I'm thinking, I'm kind of listening to what you're saying, both you and Saul. So if you put kind of draw a frame of mind, let's call this a project, right?
Yeah.
But what is the architecture of the project, right? And yes. Gambians don't lack the capacity as far as folks who have the technical know-how to deliver. No, even if you look at the struggles of our country in terms of building infrastructures, the issues, the technical aspect, like the stadium, the energy sector and all that. We have folks doing well in the other sectors, in the other countries that are designing their whole energy sector. But I think what I'm interested in hearing is such a venture, like me, we go work 9 to 5. We earn our hard-won dollars, right? If we're going to put it into a venture, what is the assurance that to mitigate or hedge against some type of risk I mean, Sadie cannot. I mean, if he wants to come and talk to us about it, that's fine. But what assurance? If you're going to talk about that, even the Africa 50, you're saying, oh, they gave them 100 million. Where is that money right now currently? What are they doing about it? And I mean, you took our money. We don't want government to put that on some type of excessive, travel because they are budget shortfall. What are you gonna show us to attract? Because one of the key ingredients, what kind of policy you gonna have to hedge against those risks? And I don't think I listened to you guys for a little bit. I don't think I have heard any concrete or formulas or some type of process in motion whereby they could
guarantee.
Huh?
Guarantee, right?
I don't want to be the one answering their questions. Based on what I heard, and they're going to come to Seattle. Based on what I heard, this is what they said. This is not a government project. The only role that government is going to play at the National Assembly is basically to developing legislation. What this thing is going to amount to is a PPP. They're going to have this special purpose vehicle. I mean, that has become the buzzword. This is going to be owned by the investors. The investors are going to own it. Again, this is their words now. I'm not holding briefs for them. They're going to create an escrow account. Sariang Maron invested $10,000. Sariang Maron is going to buy the shares to be floated from the capital market, from the central bank. You own the shares, okay? You have an access to an escrow account. When revenue comes in, you will see it. When it goes out, how it is spent, you will see it. Again, their words, not mine. In other words, they're saying this is not government. This is going to be a special purpose vehicle. Board of directors are going to be brought in by the shareholders. Ñoom ñooy decide who is going to be running this entity. They are the ones going to man ma yow suñ ci investé. Ñun ñooy determine who is going to be the CEO of this. For transparency, according to them, man waxaluma leen de. I was at the meeting and this is what they said. Now, knowing our country and knowing corruption, I'm not going to blame anyone if you're cynical. I'm not going to blame anyone, even if you don't trust them.
No. But,
So
but
they
it's,
got
it's
their work
open.
out
It's
for
it's okay to be open-minded and listen to what they're saying. I think it's a fresh idea.
Mhm.
Thinking about Gambia for 59 years or so, someone at least is saying, hey man, our capital infrastructure project, it costs this much. Diaspora is bringing this much into our country. Let's look at the composition and let's look at how we can venture, work with them, be partners in this development. I think it makes perfect sense. I'm very, very, open to listen to them and talk to them. I think it's a departure of the whole and Musa, to be honest with you, think about it though. We're talking about $110 billion in debt.
22 million.
So if we think about this, and the government has whatever venture we have, special purpose vehicle, there's a cut, and what's called it, central bank was able to replicate whatever dividends that came out of this. I think it's a win-win for all of us. So I'm not gonna be dismissive of the idea. I think it's a great idea. Folks need to be open-minded, ask the tough question, ask the questions. And we see where we go from there. But I think it's better than getting out there and taking these loans and we don't know where it is.
Exactly.
Yes.
I couldn't, Musa and Sarian, as we close, I couldn't agree more with what you guys are saying. But Musa, a standard has been set by this government, and perception is everything. And we see our children now. I was very fearful of this. The guy knew in Silver Spring back in 2019, 2020, deep about this constitution. Damane, képp koo xam ne jël nañ ko ñu tànn ko pour mu nekk ay National Assembly member. They must be educated, number one, because they need to know how to read the constitution. We need to be able to draft documents for us. But they also must be trustworthy. They have to understand the political landscape and the international world, how it functions. And if they are not people who are trustworthy and they're not honest or have integrity, we will sip that down to our children to the extent that they'll start behaving just like us, thinking it's okay. I use this as an example of this this council member who they were talking about from KMC, who assumably was questioned outside of the being at the commission, and he said things, and then he came to the commission and he indicated that those things that he said, he was not sworn in to say those things. So now he is at liberty to change his statement because now he's been sworn in. It's a true testament of what we have instilled on our children. We have to have leaders who are honest and have integrity. And this is where the government is going to run into a problem convincing the citizens to put their money in an escrow account, whatever they call it, with this perception that this government cannot be trusted. And I will tell you this before we close, Sari and Musa, they have no money. They are trying to find money. They cannot borrow loan. They want your money to use it and play and fiddle around and play with it. That's what it is. But we will meet them and ask them tough questions.
So you gotta be open minded now. You can
I
just
am
come
open
and
minded, but I will be there to ask them questions, but they will not get a dime from me, Musa.
but promise me though that you will go to the meeting when they get to Maryland.
Inshallah. When they come, I have been given, somebody texted me with the information. I said, I will be there because I want to go and ask those questions just like you and Ojis did. Amusha,
I think so.
you're a very brilliant guy because you just hit the nail on things. The propaganda, because you were talking about the key issues that would convince somebody to buy into. Very good, guys. Thank you very much.
I am not propagandering for them. I'm just telling you what I heard.
No, they don't want to pay propaganda because the key things you spoke about, they have not been able to articulate them well because you're talking about this escrow account. You're talking about a board that is going to be managed. You're talking about how this whole entire process would work. These are key issues that they should be able to drive out and promise to try to convince people like myself.
I heard it from them though. They're the ones who
That's what I want. I heard it from the audio the guy sent. Those things in our one. That's what it said. Why they should articulate these things more often, and then you convince some people to buy into the idea.
No. Look, man, I'm with you. Man, even from day one, when they were in Gambia saying they were going to come to Atlanta, I got a call from Mo Drame, Sumawila. And my thing was, look, you guys need to do the sensitization, social media, before you even get to the diaspora. Put the word out, explain it with clarity, so that by the time you guys get here, half of your work is done. And they didn't do any of that. So I know they dropped the ball. So that is why the meeting that they had in New York was just half-assed, didn't do very well. We did not even have enough time to sell it here in Atlanta. Just so that people can at least come and listen to them. You see, now they're going to come to Seattle, they're going to go to Dallas. But when you do these things, I think information, sensitization, clarity, it's important. Find people that can communicate well. And but the idea, mom, is good. Whether they're genuine, I don't know. But the idea, mom, Sibopa, as we all said,
he's good, man. I'm telling you, man. He is good. Musa, what they got here? Musa, you're good, man. But then, Musa, you have to conclude. Tell Gambians and Africans to go out there and vote, especially by people from Michigan. Vote.
Are they collecting?
I am predicting 51-47. All right. I think so, man. 51.
Yeah, definitely, in our favor.
Yes.
51.
51-47. The guy never passed 48%. I think he's going to slide.
I saw the ABC News poll this morning, and it's right on the money. What do you just regurgitate?
Well, when the guy he has only 48% support. He did not pass 48% support.
The one that even Iowa. These were places that they were not polling them because they thought that Trump had it.
Here's the thing
Harris
about
is
these
leading in Iowa. I don't know how
Here's the thing. They are oversampling because they made a mistake twice. They are trying to compensate him. And they are neck and neck. No, neck and neck. I'm telling you right now. Come Tuesday, we're gonna talk about this again. Inshallah. The sister is gonna be on the top. and he's gonna defeat him, and that's the end of him once and for all. No more
Yalla ko yalla def. Yalla ko yalla def.
Yalla yalla nangu sa ñaan.
Amin ya
Amin.
rabbi.
Umrah you do ja. I can take it. Don't say hi to the newlywed. You say hi to Jainaba and
Yes.
Saul.
Wow.
We'll be back definitely next Sunday, inshallah. Hopefully.
Yalla ko yalla def waay. Thank you very much, Musa. Jërëjëf. All right, goodbye. Bye-bye.
Later.